Hello everybody and welcome to another deck profile. So today I'll be doing the Metaphys archetype. This deck came out around last year in Circuit Break and it focuses a lot on banishing cards from your deck and then triggering them on your standby phase. So without further ado, we'll play 3 copies of Metaphys Ragnarok. This card is insane. It's the best card in the deck because on summon you get to banish the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you'll gain 300 attack for each one banished. But yeah, so the reason it's good is because you get to banish your top cards, right? And then most of your effects trigger when they're banished, so definitely want to play 3 Ragnarok. It also has the effect of, if you deal battle damage to somebody, or your opponent, you get to special summon a level 5 or higher Metaphys from your deck, so it helps you get monsters on the board. And then, before I go into the next few, I want to mention that they all have effects that trigger in the standby phase. So Metaphys Nepotis, if it's banished during the next standby phase, you get to search by reshuffling it. Also, if it's special summoned by the effect of a Metaphys monster, you get to banish all set traps, spells and traps on the field. So it's really good against stun trap based decks. And then 3 Metaphys Daedalus. Also, if it's banished during the standby phase, reshuffle, you get to banish another one from your deck. But the better effect is, if it's special summoned by the effect of a Metaphys monster, you get to banish all special summoned monsters on the field. Non-target, so removes basically everything. Next, 2 Metaphys Tyrant Dragon. Only 2 because you don't need it that much, but the banish effect is you get to return it to the deck to special summon a Metaphys from your hand. So this is usually the way you'll trigger off your other Metaphys effects. And also, if it's special summoned by the effect of a Metaphys, you can attack twice, and it's unaffected by trap effects. Next, 3 copies of Decoy Dragon. It works like regular Decoy Dragon, where if your opponent declares an attack against one of your monsters, you can banish it from your scale or on the field to special summon a Metaphys from your grave or in your banish zone. So this card can really stun your opponent in the battle phase, but honestly, in meta-based matchups, they're usually able to pop this really easily, so it's still really good though. And then 1 Executor. Honestly, this is supposed to be the quote-unquote boss monster of the deck. It's really hard to resolve, but its effect is you can banish 5 Metaphys monsters from your field, 5 Metaphys cards from your field or grave, and to special summon this guy. And he has the effect of, if your opponent has more cards than you, you can special summon a banished Metaphys. He's also a sort of pseudo beat stick because it can't be destroyed, can't be banished, and I mean, it's good, but it doesn't actually resolve. You aren't able to summon it too much. Next, well, that's it for the Metaphys lineup, but next we play, obviously, 3 Eater of Millions because this card's ridiculous. Just to sort of fit with the banishing theme, the Eater of Millions is in here, and also it does out a lot of problematic monsters that your Metaphys monsters can't deal with. So, yeah, definitely want to play 3 Eater of Millions. That's it for the monsters. On to the spells. Play 3 copies of Ace of Metaphys. This card helps you mold your hand because you get to banish one from your hand to draw another one. And the other effects don't apply too much, but basically, if Metaphys guy you control is banished on your turn, all your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack. And on your opponent's turn, battle position of all monsters that are not Metaphys change. But really, the good effect is you get to banish one from your hand and draw another one. Next, 2 copies of Metaphys Factor. I know a lot of people don't play this card, but in my opinion, this card is really good against meta or control-based strategies because you're able to bait out negates. You're able to force negates, actually, because if you have this on the field, your opponent can't activate in response to Metaphys effects, which is really, really good because if you have, for example, Ragnarok, they can't use Trigate to negate it or something. Something that's happened a lot is I can activate Factor and they have to use their Trigate negate. So I'm basically free to use whatever effects I want. Next, play 3 copies of Soul Absorption because you gain a lot of life points if you have this on the field and you're banishing cards consistently. The reason I play this, even though it doesn't really advance your board in any way, is you're able to live longer. Because most of the time I find that if they clear your board, there's not a lot of recovery, and this card helps you stall to the point where you're able to get Ragnarok back and start banishing more cards. 3 copies of Gold Sark because you're basically playing a 37 card deck with Gold Sark. You're able to filter through your deck by hitting the trap to get a search. And then 2 copies of Crossbreed. This is the spicy tech of the deck. You can banish 2 monsters with the same type to add another one with the same type from your deck to your hand. Obviously, all your Metaphys have banish effects, so Crossbreed in theory is a -1, but on the next standby phase, you get to get their effects anyways. And it helps clear your hand of bricks, because all of the high-level Metaphys are bricks in your hand, so you don't really want to have those, so Crossbreed's good for that. And then Dimensional Fissure, because it's great for getting rid of your opponents. I mean, it's great for stalling out opponents' strategies that use the graveyard a lot. And 2 copies of Called by the Grave, because Called by the Grave stops hand traps, and it's also multi-purpose in that it stops other grave effects, but the deck is somewhat fragile, so you do want to play Called by the Grave. So that's it for the spells. Moving on to the traps, we play 3 copies of Metaphys Ascension. If this card gets banished, you get to get a free search, which is absolutely insane. And then on activation, though, you get to discard and draw 1, then banish 1 from your deck. So this card's obviously not the best to draw, but it's a free search, which is absolutely insane. 2 bottomless trap hole. You can sub this in for whatever trap you want, so like strikes or something, but I prefer trap hole just because it synergizes to some degree with soul absorption, and then 1 macrocosmos, because macrocosmos is basically Dimensional Fissure, and there's no reason not to play it. So that's it for the main deck. That's exactly 40 cards. On to the extra deck. 1 Metaphysaurus and 1 Coral Dragon for the synchros. These are the only 2 that matter, because, well, Ragnarok is 4, and Decoy Dragon is 2. He's the tuner, which is actually really problematic. If Decoy Dragon was the tuner, you could make so much more. But anyways, Horus is good because you get to steal an opponent's guy, and it gets to negate 1 face apart in the field. But the reason the steal is really good is because your opponent chooses, so it gets over effects that make the monster unaffected by everything else. And then Coral Dragon because it's just removal. Everything else in the extra deck is just targets for Eater of Millions, but you can make all of these if you want. 7 Sins, Pain Gainer, Sanafond, 1 Red Eyes Flare, Big Eye, Baguska, Fujinte, Starleech, Paladynamo, it's whatever. If you actually want to use your extra deck, like feasibly, Cowboy would be good for closing out games, because in my testing, you often get your opponent really low when you're unable to close out, so Starleech would be great for that. Cowboy would be great for that. And then onto the links, 1 Bomber, Trisbania, Ningirsu, Triple Burst, Space Insulator, and Underclock Taker. So that about sums up the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. I totally recommend playing this deck. This is quite possibly my favorite deck of the year. It's so much fun to play, and it's actually not half bad either. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.